In this video, I'll show you what instruments are used in the Beach Boys song God Only Knows, and how those instruments are combined in different ways to create variation across the song. So here's an overview of the whole song. We have the structural sections up the top, the timeline down the bottom, and the instrument names on the side. To save space, I've condensed some elements into larger sections, like backing vocals, woodwinds, strings, and the basses. Okay, the song begins with the piano, harpsichord, and accordion. So altogether we have over these three textures, we have a French horn playing a melody. This then repeats, but with the addition of the bass, sleigh bells, and bass drum. The bass comes in slightly before the other two instruments and introduces an eighth note swing feel to the rhythm of the song. In the short transition from the intro to verse 1, everything apart from the bass and percussion drops out, and the flutes enter to usher us in to verse 1. Note how this first verse is quite sparse compared to later verses. This technique is used in countless great songs. Starting with only a few instruments gives the song room to grow as layers are built up in subsequent sections. So in verse 1, we have the lead vocal, piano, bass guitar, and percussion. Note that the percussion adds another layer here in the form of clip-clop percussion, which almost sounds like an occasionally syncopated clock or metronome ticking away. I believe this sound was created using plastic orange juice cups in the original recording, but I've just used clave and castanet MIDI sounds to approximate the effect here. So here's everything together.
I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you.
Then we get this short transitional section that we had before, but this time the flutes are replaced by the piano and harpsichord. So here's the first transition and the second. This subtle variation in instrumentation keeps this repeated section sounding fresh. Now the second verse features a considerable step up in instrumentation. All the instruments from the first verse remain, but they are joined by the harpsichord, electric guitar, string quartet, and a tambourine. Though this tambourine is used sparingly, only appearing on the fourth beat of each bar. The harpsichord and electric guitar follow the staccato rhythm of the piano. While the string quartet mostly plays sustained whole notes. So altogether, we have this.
If you should ever leave me, well, life would still go on, believe me. The world could show nothing to me, so what good would living do me?
Next, we have the most random section of the song, the interlude. It almost feels like we've switched channels to a completely different song at this point, and part of that is due to the sudden shift in instrumentation. The vocals, guitar, strings, and most of the percussion drop out, and in their place, we get the accordion, French horn, and woodwinds joining the piano, harpsichord, bass, and drum kit. Also note that the drum kit uses the snare drum in this section. Up until this point, only the bass drum has been used. Another feature of this section that sets it apart from the rest of the song is the use of straight eighth notes, so we lose the swing feel during this section. So instead of the underlying subdivision being da 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 da, we get a straight da 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 da. Altogether, the interlude sounds like this. Now, as far as instrumentation goes, the instrumental verse is very similar to verse 2, but there are 3 differences. First, there are no sleigh bells in the instrumental verse. Second, the tambourine in verse 2 only appears on the 4th beat of each bar, but here the tambourine appears on both the 2nd and 4th beat of each bar. And the most obvious difference is the inclusion of backing vocals, and the fact that there are no actual lyrics in the main vocal. These beautiful barbershop-style vocals are a hallmark of the Beach Boys' music. And the thing that makes them a step up in complexity from the average vocals you find in popular music is their polyphonic nature. Generally speaking, most popular music tends to have homophonic backing vocals. So homophony describes music with one clear melody, while the other parts act more like assistants to the main melody, providing harmony like a chord. In contrast, polyphony describes music that has multiple melodies going at the same time. So each line is independent in both pitch and rhythm, and they interweave with each other. In this case, we have 3 independent lines, including the main vocal. So 1, ha, 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 2, 3. Put them all together and you get this. And here are these polyphonic vocal harmonies with the rest of the instruments. In the refrain, the backing vocals drop out and the main vocal resumes singing the lyrics. We also get the French horn and woodwinds playing that motif that was played by the French horn in the intro. The final verse is a repeat of verse 2, and the instrumentation is largely the same as verse 2. However, the tambourine plays twice as often and the woodwinds add extra texture to the section.
If you should ever leave me, if you should ever leave me.
My favourite woodwind part here is the 2 flutes playing thirds apart at the end of the section.
Into me, so what good would live into me? God only knows what I'd be without you.
Now from this point on, we just have the refrain repeated 6 more times. But they employ a simple but clever trick to keep things interesting. They strip away most of the instrumentation. So all we have is the main vocal, strings, bass, and simple percussion. Everything else is gone. This both creates an intimate moment and gives the song room to build back up again.
God only knows what I'd be without.
It begins by bringing in one backing vocal in the second half of the first refrain.
God only knows what I'd be with.
Then the second backing vocal, piano, and snare drum come in for the next refrain.
God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd be.
And finally, all the other instruments rejoin the song for the triumphant finale.
Knows what I'd God only knows. God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what.
Listen to how this gradual layering of textures builds us back up to this point.
God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd. God only knows. God only knows what I'd be.
Also, the horn motif from the intro, which also appears in the refrain sections of the instrumental and final verses, returns here in full force, in a kind of call and response between instruments. And this motif is also doubled in one of the backing vocals.
He knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be.
Speaking of the vocals, this final refrain section is sung in rounds, which means that two singers are singing the same refrain but beginning at different times, with the two refrains overlapping. This is polyphony again. So like this.
God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be without you.
Now there's actually a third vocal part in this round, which sings the same lyrical line as the other two voices, but to the melody of the horn motif.
God only knows what I'd be without you.
So we're actually getting the refrain sung about 17 times at the end of the song. But we don't get sick of it because it is sung through this intricate, mesmerizing interweaving of voices.
God only knows what I'd be without you. 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 God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd be.
So in summary, you can see that this song has a pattern of building up and then stripping back the instrumentation. And this variation really helps keep the song interesting, texturally and dynamically. We see this first in the intro, which begins with the melody and chordal instruments before bringing in the bass and percussion in the second half. The first verse then pulls the instrumentation right back, giving it room to grow significantly in the second verse. The instrumental texture then changes quite noticeably in the interlude, which brings in the woodwinds and accordion, which haven't been heard since the intro, and the snare drum for the first time. It then switches back to the second verse instrumentation, but continues to fold in new layers. We then get another parring back at the end before building up to the final refrains, featuring everything but the sleigh bells. Now, if you enjoyed this breakdown, you might also like my other God Only Knows videos, where I break down the song structure, analyze the chords and keys used in the song, and teach you how to play this song on the guitar. Check them out if you're interested, and like and subscribe if you got something out of this video.